I got another couple short stories for y'all. Let's see. This one time, it would have been, hmm, I don't know. I probably would have been 6, maybe 8 years old, and me and my dad used to have gardens. My grandmother, she always had huge gardens, and when my dad was alive, we had huge gardens, multiple gardens, large gardens, and this would have been in the city of Danville. Um, in our biggest patch, we found an arrowhead or two, and I want to say we found some other points, that were used for tools or used for something or other. Um, Anyhow, there's a creek out back, um, but by that creek, like up on the high bank, back several feet, there are little piles of rocks here and there, and they're like arranged into little cairns, right? Like little piles of rocks. And so it kind of gave me an odd feeling to be in that area, But it's as a kid, I didn't really think about it, didn't really know. I mean, I guess I knew, but it just, I don't know, something felt a little off right there, but it just, wasn't, whatever. So I had this group of friends, and they were all cool. One was close to my age, the other two were a little bit older. But one of these guys named Al, he was just an asshole. Just there's no polite way to say it. He was mean. He was mean to me. He was mean to his friends, etc. And I made the mistake of telling one of my friends, and he in turn told this guy. And so we're down there one day, me and this other guy and Al, and so we're telling Al, don't mess with these rocks, don't, just don't do it. And of course, he kicks over a couple of the cairns of rocks, all fuck these, whatever, just blah, blah, just hateful, just no reason, just a hateful kid, spiteful, mean, angry kid. And I should preface this by saying I used to ride bikes like on the road and in the back of the church parking lot and everything, which the church parking lot would have been at the end of or up at the top of the cul-de-sac or the suburbs or whatever where we lived at the end of that street, or not the end of that street, but the next street, the connect. Anyway, whatever. That's yeah, but it's a long way to ride by the roads. So my dad, I guess where I was young, he didn't particularly like me, having to go that long way by the road. So we clipped the fence in the back, or he clipped the fence, and we put up 2 4x4s, and he made a space wide enough for where I could pass through. Um, and then we would just wire it back shut with baling wire, and I could go in and out, and it was just wide enough where I could push my bike through. And he got an axe or machete or something, some kind of saw, and we sawed a path through there and cleared it all out. Where you push a bike through there and there's no problem. Never had a problem. It was always fine until Al kicked over those rocks. And ever after that, when you would go down that path or go back to that path between my house and the church, that little shortcut through the woods, you would feel somebody watching you, following you. And it was just this very ominous feeling because you could never see anybody, but it would. The only way I could describe it to you is to say, like, I would assume it would be something like if you were getting stalked by a predator, or like a serial killer, or if you're a mouse getting chased by a cat. That's kind of the feeling it gave you. Like there's something really bad there, and you can't see it, but it's there. Just bad. And that's pretty much the first story. It's not a lot to it, but something about kicking those couple cairns of rocks over just really set off just something negative. And the second story, uh, let me see, let me think here. The second story, um, me and my cousin, this is a different place, Lawsonville, as a matter of fact, Lawsonville Avenue. And there's a lot of weird things that happen there. If you've ever listened to any of my other stories, you probably heard something about it. Or if you ever checked out Spectral Dream, the YouTube channel, if you haven't, you definitely should. It's this guy is just he's a great narrator. He speaks with such eloquence. Like he tells the story like he wrote the story, like he lived the story. It's just it's pretty amazing. But um anyhow, so there's a creek that ran behind this house, right? And it was back in the woods, probably half mile, maybe even a mile. It was a good little ways, but me and my cousin used to go there and play. Well, we went almost all the way to the end of the creek, or at least to where it crossed under the highway, and that's as far as we would go, which is probably a couple miles from the house. Um, and down towards the end of the creek, on the left side, there's like a little small pine grove, and it's so small that you can almost see from one side to the other. It's a little bit bigger than that, but not much. I mean, you could truly almost see from one side to the other. And me and him are walking through, and we finally decided to leave this area. And we could not seem to get out of these pine trees. We just walked in circles, walked in circles, walked in circles, walked in circles. And I didn't realize we were walking in circles. It took a little while. And then I realized we were leaning, we were rested up against a rock. He was sitting on it, and I was leaned up against it. And I'm like, man, this rock looks familiar. He's like, yeah, it kind of does, don't it? I'm like, you do realize that we've passed this rock 8 or 10 times now, the same set of rocks. And he's like, I hadn't really thought about it, but yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, okay. So we can't figure out what's going on, why we can't get out of this pine grove. Never been in it, but we can't seem to get out of it. And so we start looking around. I don't know why. I guess just trying to get our bearings, and started to notice these little piles of of cairns, the little piles of stones, much like the other place. This would have been within, I believe, 30 or 40 miles, maybe 50 miles. The other place, probably not. Probably closer to 30 or 40 miles. This would have been in Reedsville. Um, and we noticed these cairns of rocks were, amongst the leaves. When you brush the leaves back here and there, you can see these little piles of stones. And I told him it's either Indian burial ground or this is like an early settlers cemetery or something like that. I'm like, well, I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Let's just try this. Just to see. So we get to looking around, and there's a couple of these cairns, and like I said, they're buried by leaves. They're not very tall, most of them. And then there's a couple of them had the rocks like slightly tumbled off or misplaced, and I was wondering if maybe we kicked those loose walking and didn't even know it, right? So we go around and we pile all the rocks back up in each individual pile the best that we can, put them back to as natural as we could get them. And I went back to that big rock, me and my cousin, and I said, no, shut up and, kind of say this with me, or repeat what I'm saying, and let's see if we can get out of here. And so I apologized to the spirits. And I keep in mind, we've been walking around this for a good 45 minutes, maybe an hour. So basically, we put the rocks back, as right as we could get them. And we basically apologized to the spirits and said, look, we understand if we're not sure if this is, native burial ground or if this is colonial burial ground, but either or, but specific, particularly if it is native land. We do apologize if we have done any damage. We did not mean to do it, and we've done our best to repair what we can find to fix. And if you will forgive us, for our trespassing, and just let us go home. We won't come back here. We won't disrespect this place. And just like that, we got done talking. We took a bearing from that rock. We walked a straight line to the creek and right back home. And I mean, we've been out there for almost an hour walking around in circles in this little grove that's a few 100 feet wide. I mean, I don't know. It's really weird, but it happened. And that's the other story. Not much to either or, but it was interesting on both facets. It was pretty interesting. The first one was pretty ominous. The second one, got to be a little ominous, like we felt like we were lost, like we just couldn't get out. And I don't know if you ever been lost in the woods and can't get out, and you have, this is back before, having good cell phones with compasses and stuff like that. We were lucky if we had a little toy compass, or a whistle for that matter, or walkie talkie. So, but it's the psychological fear is there, especially as a child. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got for y'all this time around. But hope y'all enjoyed it. Um, See if I can get this uploaded here and there and everywhere. And once again, uh, I'm pretty sure I mentioned him, but thanks again to Spectral Dream for helping me realize a dream myself. I love these stories, much like South Force 10. These are stories I either experienced or stories that uh, have occurred to me or my family or close friends, people, the few people that I still completely trust or would have trusted had they still been alive. Um, and they're all true. I don't have any reason to make it up. But like I said, once again, thank you, Spectral Dream, for narrating a couple of my stories in such a beautiful fashion. And yeah, that's it, fellas and fellettes. I've got to think of a better term. But that's it, people. Hope y'all enjoyed these.